Your daily fix of women's mixed martial arts from the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. Be in the loop, cause Golden State Media Concepts got you covered. Get your fix of women's MMA with Got You Covered on Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Arnel De Leon, and I do genuinely wish you are doing well for yourself. You, your friends, your family, whether you live in the States or internationally, let's say Abu Dhabi, then well, I hope you're doing fine for yourself. I hope you're doing healthy. I hope everything's good for you, because currently in the States right now, things are getting a wee bit toxic. Things are very uncertain right now. We got riots, we got looting going on, we got this huge coronavirus pandemic. But once again, I hope everyone is doing well for themselves. I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can, because everything's a wee bit bleak. Now, although everything right now is uncertain in the States and kind of in the world, one thing that is definitely for certain is that we are getting Fight Island. Yes, Fight Island has been announced. We don't know what's going to happen in Fight Island exactly. We know that there are 4 fight cards that are coming up in the month of July. We know Fight Island is going to take place in Abu Dhabi, my home city of Abu Dhabi that I was born in, which, by the way, is a huge place in terms of combat sports fans. There's a significant portion of Filipinos that live in Abu Dhabi. I was born there, and I got a lot of family members who still live there in Abu Dhabi, and they're huge fans of one championship, Bellator, UFC, boxing, and also basketball. Strangely enough, also basketball. So there's a huge combat sports fan base that are in Abu Dhabi, so it makes sense to me to know that we got somebody out there being like, hey, UFC can come in here, we have an island for you, you can use that island. They're going to have an octagon on the beach. Now, that's not me just saying that. That's Dana White saying it himself. He says there will be an octagon on the beach. Now, will this be an outdoors? Will this be an outdoors UFC event? I'm not really sure. Will this be an indoors UFC event? I don't know. I'm expecting Bash of the Beach. So, what's going on right now? As of right now, there are no announced women's fights that are gonna be coming up in the show. We got Volkanovski versus Max Holloway, Gilbert Burns versus Kamaru Usman, Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo. No women's fights that is set to be announced. But we can expect Carla Esparza. Maybe Carla Esparza will pop up there. We might see Carla Esparza versus Claudia Gadelha. That fight has been rumored for Fight Island. We could see Joanne Calderwood versus Valentina Shevchenko. That could be a real possibility. So I'm not really sure what to expect. I really thought Rose Namajunas versus... Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. That was announced coming up at UFC 251 for Fight Island, at the Fight Island thing. But other than those two, I'm not really sure what's going to be happening. I thought Joanne Calderwood versus Valentina Shevchenko, that could be a real possibility. As of right now, we're unsure of the status of Valentina Shevchenko. She's both battling an injury, and she's right now trying to upsell this movie. But I'm excited for Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. Hopefully this fight is actually going to happen. I am really excited for the return of Rose Namajunas. Now, I'm unsure of how she's handling... I'm unsure how Rose Namajunas is handling herself mentally, really. Because Rose Namajunas, at one point, was considered the second best women's fighter in all of UFC. If you were to say, okay, who are the best women's fighters in all of UFC? There's a pair you could say Chris Cyborg, Amanda Nunes, and then Rose Namajunas, in that order. You say those 3 are the top women's fighters right now. Well, now we can go say Amanda Nunes. She's currently seen as the GOAT, as the greatest women's fighter of all of UFC. Her being a dual champion. Note, the featherweight division is kind of empty, and I'll get deep into that. Amanda Nunes defeated Foyce Spencer. I'm going to get into that after the commercial break. But let's go talk about Rose Namajunas here, since she's being matched up against Jessica Andrade in the upcoming Fight Island in the Beach UFC event that's happening, which is really insane. So she's matched up against Jessica Andrade, and to those who are unaware, even though Jessica Andrade, she defeated Rose Namajunas for the women's strawweight belt, you could see them be like, oh, Jessica Andrade was the better fighter that day, and I'll agree, yeah. Jessica Andrade was the better fighter in the final 2 minutes of the second round. I mean, in the first 2 minutes of the second round. She definitely wasn't the better fighter than Rose in the first round, 100% guarantee on that. But when you look at Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade in their first fight, yes, Andrade defeat Rose. But if you look at the fight, if you look at the first round, and look how everything was going up until that slam in the second round, to which that's how Andrade defeated Rose Namajunas, was with a slam. Rose Namajunas was the better fighter. Unanimous without a doubt. Rose Namajunas had the best first round of her entire career against Jessica Andrade. Coming into the fight, even though Rose Namajunas defeated Joanna Jędrzejczyk twice, Rose came into that fight against Jessica Andrade as the underdog. Analysts, fighters, fight fans, they were all predicting Jessica Andrade would defeat Rose Namajunas. You know why? Because Jessica Andrade was the bigger fighter. She was stronger than Rose Namajunas. Her punching power was great. Her ability to angle shots were great. Her ability to apply pressure is really good. She applied pressure on Rose Namajunas, but she got counter hit a lot of times. Her clinching was superior. Her grappling was superior. There wasn't a single aspect that Rose Namajunas was better at than Jessica Andrade. That was the idea coming into the fights. And then the actual fight happened. First round, Rose Namajunas outboxes Jessica Andrade. Rose Namajunas is hitting Jessica Andrade cleanly with these amazing counter punches. Rose Namajunas was a lot more comfortable fighting both in and outside the paint. Rose Namajunas was stuffing every time Jessica Andrade was attempting a takedown. Great takedown defense. The one thing Jessica Andrade had was clinching, and even then, Rose Namajunas was defending herself greatly. She's doing a good job defending herself. The only thing she struggled with was the power that Jessica Andrade had. Because Jessica Andrade was able to go pick up Rose and hit her with a slam. But in that slam, Rose Namajunas almost pulled off a submission from the ground. Which would have been one of the most insane finishes anyone would have ever seen. Pulling off this like triangle choke armbar. I don't know if it's a triangle choke or an armbar, but she was about to pull off a submission from the ground position from a slam that Andrade was doing onto her. And it really looked like Rose Namajunas was going to win that. If the bell didn't sang, and that fight were to go on for another 2-3 more minutes, potentially Rose Namajunas could have won the fight. She could have knocked her out. I'm being that honest. Rose Namajunas had such a good round. And then the second round happened. And this is where things went wrong for Rose. Rose was the better fighter in terms of skill set and abilities. It's just in terms of her strategy, she made the wrong move. She took a huge risk. So once again, she almost got Andrade with a submission hold in the first round by Andrade slamming her. So what did Rose Namajunas do this time? Well, she thought to herself, okay, I almost got Andrade with a submission hold in the clinch. I'm beating her in the boxing game. So I know Andrade is definitely going to grapple with me. She's going to go wrestle with me. And she's going to try to replicate the same thing she did last time. Because her normal takedowns just weren't working. The only way Andrade were to go defeat Rose Namajunas if she were to take her down through a clinch. Rose Namajunas knew that. Her cornerman knew that. Namajunas told herself, okay, I know what her strategy is going to be. Now, I almost submitted her with her applying that strategy. This time, when she does go for it, I'm going to go adjust myself, adjust my body, and I'll cleanly tap her out. Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. But that's the issue there. She had to Rose Namajunas' her strategy was to purposely place herself in a bad situation in order to go get the submission victory. Well, she attempted it. She let Andrade clinch slam her. She landed on her head and knocked herself out. Ever since that loss, Rose Namajunas just hasn't been the same person, because if you follow her through social media and through interviews, she's gone out and said that she doesn't enjoy fighting anymore. She's in the same boat as Tyron Woodley, in that she made it to the top, and then she just became disinterested. And her losing to Jessica Andrade was the big reason for that. So this is a huge page turner for Rose Namajunas' career if she can go and get the victory over Jessica Andrade. Whoever wins this fight is going to fight Weili Zhang. So this is a huge fight for both fighters. Jessica Andrade, Rose Namajunas, two former world champions in the women's strawweight division. Whoever wins this can potentially fight against Weili Zhang, who is arguably the hottest commodity of all the UFC women's divisions because of her performance against Joanna. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, coming back after the short break here.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. So now we know that Rose Namajunas and Jessica Andrade are set to fight each other at Fight Island. It's going to be a historical moment. I can't wait to see it. But we go from the UFC strawweight division to the UFC featherweight division. I've always said that UFC women's strawweight division has to be the best division in all of UFC's women's divisions. Now, the featherweight division, I say it is not only the weakest women's division, it is the weakest division in all of UFC. And that's not me disrespecting Felicia Spencer and Megan Anderson. The problem, though, is that other than those two, I just don't see anyone else in the featherweight division competing against Amanda Nunes. I really don't. Like, it's either those two or a plethora of women in the bantamweight or flyweight division. And even then, people would love to see some fighters compete from the strawweight division fighting against Amanda Nunes. Weili Zhang's name has been thrown out there by Dana White himself, that he would love to see Weili Zhang versus Amanda Nunes over Valentina Shevchenko versus Amanda Nunes. Either of those fights are big. Either of those fights would be bigger than Amanda Nunes versus Spencer or Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. So let's talk about Spencer versus Amanda Nunes. And so let's discuss Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer that happened at UFC 250. Great showing by both fighters. Amanda Nunes, being the dominant champion she was, she actually wrestled. She wrestled Felicia Spencer, which is the last thing I thought Amanda Nunes would be doing against Spencer. So going to that fight, I really wanted Spencer to win. I really wanted Felicia Spencer to win. I thought, okay, Spencer, being one of the most toughest women in the entire world, she can handle Nunes. It wasn't even a question. People were saying, oh man, Nunes is going to stoke her in the first round. She's going to stomp her in the second round. It's not going to go far. And I thought to myself, this fight's going to end by decision. There's no way this fight between Nunes and Spencer was going to end via TKO or KO. This fight has to end by decision. And you know why? It's because if you look at how tough Felicia Spencer has been in her recent fights, especially the Chris Cyborg fight, Spencer's tough. Spencer's one tough SOB, and I just can't see her get knocked out even by the GOAT, Amanda Nunes. And I'm looking at this fight, and I'm like, okay, the only way Spencer could go defeat Amanda Nunes was if she grappled her. Because Spencer is a grappler first, striker second. And yes, Amanda Nunes does have a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and she showed it off here. She's a great wrestler. She grappled with Germaine de Randamie, and she grappled with Felicia Spencer here. She out-grappled her. There wasn't a single aspect in the fight game that Spencer was better at than Amanda Nunes, except for the wrestling game. And then, when they actually got to fighting, things turned. Nunes was the better fighter in the striking, and she was the better fighter in the grappling. So, when you look at all 5 rounds, I'm going to tell you what happened in all 5 rounds in a nutshell. Nunes was outstriking Felicia Spencer. Spencer said, you know what, no striking, I'm going to grapple you. And she would either go for a clinch, or go for a single leg takedown attempt. And that will lead to Amanda Nunes stopping the takedown attempt. And then pretty much going towards her half guard or a side control, and just ground and pounding her. When Nunes got Spencer to the ground, there was no way Spencer could handle herself. Nunes was both the bigger fighter and was just much more stronger than Spencer. Even though Spencer has a great background pedigree as it pertains to like trying to handle herself from the ground in terms of grappling ability, she just couldn't handle anything that Nunes was giving her. Nunes was that strong. Nunes was that powerful. Though, one thing I will say, Spencer did a really good job in this fight. It's really interesting looking at Amanda Nunes fights now, because you're thinking, okay, how can you beat Nunes? Like, what are the things? And here's the thing, Nunes does have some holes in her game. Germaine Duraname almost defeated Amanda Nunes with the striking, and it opened up a small chink on Amanda Nunes' armor here, and then yeah, it's like she's beatable. Amanda Nunes is beatable. Germaine Duraname almost found the answer to that. It just, Nunes grappled her. Spencer also found another chink in her armor. Leg kicks. Throughout all 5 rounds, the one thing Spencer did really good at against Nunes was leg kicks. She was slowly chopping away Nunes. And Nunes knew it. The commentary knew it. Everyone knows it. Matt Nunes does not want to be leg kicked, and she reacts to her being leg kicked into leaning forward and becoming ultra aggressive to compensate and to hide that the leg kicks were actually doing any damage to her. And so, Amanda Nunes doesn't prefer the poking game. She doesn't prefer the poking game against her opponent if they were to conduct leg kicks. And the same thing happened in the Germaine Duraname fight. So I'm just giving some advice here for Megan Anderson, because she probably is next up in line after Spencer in the featherweight division. Now, will Spencer go fight Amanda Nunes anytime soon? I don't think so. I really don't. Because when you look at who's lined up to go fight... Okay, here's the situation right now for all the women's divisions. We got Valentina Shevchenko, who would be a great fighter to compete against Amanda Nunes again. Valentina Shevchenko right now is a better fighter than when she fought Nunes last time. Nunes defeated Shevchenko, but as of right now, I think Valentina would be a great matchup right now in 2020. People have been throwing up Valentina Shevchenko's name constantly. During the post-fight press conference, when Dana was asked who's going to go and fight against Amanda Nunes next, several people were talking about Valentina. During the build-up to Felicia Spencer versus Amanda Nunes, if you look at the comments, if you look at people's viewpoints and opinions, look at analysts, look at fight fans, everyone's saying Valentina is logically the next step after Spencer. And then Dana White shuts that down. Dana White's saying, okay, Valentina, she lost to Amanda Nunes, so I don't think she should go fight her again. And I'm thinking that Dana White doesn't have enough faith in Valentina Shevchenko to go dethrone Nunes. Also, if the two of them were to fight, Dana White's thinking then Valentina has to throw up her belt. I'm like, okay, no. There's a way to do this. You can have Valentina Shevchenko fight Amanda Nunes without giving up her belt. It can definitely happen. You can have Valentina fight against Joanne Calderwood, and if Valentina were to defeat Joanne Calderwood, she would then fight against Amanda Nunes at bantamweight. And if Amanda Nunes were to defeat Valentina Shevchenko, Valentina would still keep her flyweight belt. So, because it's the worst case scenario, the absolute worst case scenario would be Amanda Nunes fighting at flyweight, defeating Valentina, and her having 3 belts. Because right now, the featherweight division, one of the side effects of Amanda Nunes defeating Chris Cyborg, is the fact that there is just nothing happening in the featherweight division. It's a wasteland. When you compare because I found a ranking here looking at like who are the top 50 best pound for pound fighters in the UFC's like women's divisions, and they had all the names. They had Weili Zhang, they had Rose Namajunas, they had Claudia Cadella, Michelle Waterson, Jessica Andrade, Valentina Shevchenko, Caitlin Chikagian, Jessica Evil Eye. You got all these names being thrown out there, and the featherweight division has such a lack of representation. Other than Jessica Eye, there's like Jessica Eye, Spencer, and Megan Anderson, or like those 3 who kind of represent the women's featherweight division here. Nothing else is really happening, and it's sad to know that. Now, according to Dana White, He says there's more of a likely chance of seeing Weili Zhang versus Amanda Nunes than there is to see Valentina versus Amanda Nunes. But you know what? The strawweight division right now is pretty packed right now. There's Joanna Jacek, Jessica Andrade, Rose Namajunas, Tatiana Suarez, Nina Ansaroff. There are a lot of fighters in the women's strawweight division that could argue their way and can fight their way up into fighting against Weili Zhang. And it all makes sense. Weili Zhang has a plethora of contenders she can go fight for the next 4 years. She doesn't need to fight against Amanda Nunes. She doesn't need that. Because unlike the flyweight division, unlike the bantamweight division, unlike the featherweight division, the strawweight division is stacked. Yes, the rank 1 through 4 in the rankings are exceptionally really high. But 5 through 10, yes, from 5 through 10, so don't be surprised if you find somebody like Claudia Cadella or Watterson or Carla Esparza somehow buying their way into fighting against Weili Zhang some point in the near future. It could definitely happen. Massive respect for Felicia Spencer for going out there and toughing up for 5 rounds. But it just wasn't your night. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, coming back after the short break here.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. So it's being reported here that Hannah Cybers replaces Melissa Gatto and steps in to face against Maria Agapova. First reported by Combate, just 2 weeks removed from her last fight, Hannah Cybers will be stepping in as a short notice replacement for this Saturday's Fight Night card. Due to visa issues, Melissa Gatto, who is 6-0-2, has been forced out of her UFC debut this Saturday. She was scheduled to face against fellow debutee Maria Agapova. Cyphers, who is 10-5, will be stepping in as a short notice replacement. Shockwave currently rides a 2-fight skid following losses against Angela Hill and Mackenzie Dern. She holds UFC wins over Polyana Viana and Jodie Escobar. I'm just going to put this out there right now. Hannah Cybers, even though she's kind of coming across as a journeyman fighter right now, she's one tough SOB. I'll tell you that right now. She is one tough fighter, and I know it is expected that Agapova is going to go win this fight. I got my money right now down on Agapova, but don't be surprised. Hannah Cybers can win this. She really can. And the reason for that is because when you look back at her 2 last opponents, Angela Hill and Mackenzie Dern, one might say, well, if you look at Angela Hill's record, it's not all that impressive. And then you look at, Mackenzie Dern, well, she's just, at the top 10 in the rankings right now. So, I guess, those 2 fighters, they aren't really top tier. Hannah Cybers probably going to lose this fight. No, not at all. Angela Hill took it to Claudia Cadella. Go watch Angela Hill versus Claudia Cadella, which at that night was probably best fight of the night. It arguably could be potentially the best fight of the night. When you look at Hill versus Claudia Cadella, you're like, dang, even though Hill is unranked, not only is she unranked in the grand scheme of things, she's like ranked number 16 or 15 in the women's strawweight division. Angela Hill is a tough person. She's really, really tough, and she arguably could have defeated Claudia Cadella, who, as of this time right now, is ranked number 6. Angela Hill, in terms of skill set, is within the same realm as a fighter as Tatiana Suarez, Nina Ansaroff, Claudia Cadella, Michelle Watterson, Carla Esparza. Angela Hill, despite her ranking, I believe is good enough to compete against those fighters. She's similar to that of Neil Magny. Neil Magny is not even in the rankings right now. Same with Kevin Lee, but those 2 fighters can compete with the very best of the division. And then you have Mackenzie Dern. Look back at Hannah Cybers' performance against Mackenzie Dern. Cybers was winning that fight. She was. Now, she came to that fight with the wrong strategy, in my opinion. I talked about this last time, but In the fight, she had one pressing issue, and that her clinching looked really off. There was no real reason for Hannah Cifers to clinch the way she did on Dern, and she placed herself in a really bad situation here. In that, I'm just gonna talk about the match here, the fight, Hannah Cifers' last fight here, and that when the bell rang, Hannah Cifers just went straight towards Mackenzie Dern. And then, afterwards, Mackenzie Dern was overwhelmed. She was like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on here? Hannah Cifers had a one-arm clinch. She had one-arm clinch with her left arm, underhooked it over under Mackenzie Dern's arm, and then she started throwing out these uppercuts, really good-looking uppercuts, onto Dern. But Dern's one tough SOB also, in the sense that Dern was just taking and eating all these punches. Daniel Cormier has talked about this, in that she talked about during the Gilbert Burns versus Tom Willie fight, in that you have to understand. You have to understand how safe you are when you're in a certain distance between you and your opponents, and that if you know you can take certain shots or certain punches, then you're willing to go take more risk out there, and you'll understand what you can and can't get away with it in your striking. For instance, Francis Ngannou versus Rosenstrike. Ngannou, without a doubt, if he touches you, you're done. You're just done. But when you look at Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman, or even Colby Covington versus RDA or Robbie Lawler, you know Covington, he can throw out a plethora of punches on you, but no matter how many punches he hits you with, none of it's gonna knock him out. Like, none of the punches Colby Covington ever throws ever is gonna knock you out. It's gonna make you uncomfortable, but once you have a good understanding of how much damage you can take, then you have the chance, like, okay, I can go take a risk now because I know what I can and can't do when I get within a certain distance of my opponent here. And that's what Mackenzie Dern did against Hannah Cifers. Like, Hannah Cifers, she went all in on Dern. And if she couldn't go all in on Dern, through taking all these harsh uppercuts, became like, alright, I'm taking the very best Cifers has, and I'm still up and running. I think, even though she's uppercutting me, and she's making me really uncomfortable, I think I can adjust myself, and I can place myself in a good situation here. Also, I don't get Hannah Cifers' one-arm clinch. Still confused about that. Mackenzie Dern Hannah Cifers, like, I think 3 or 4 times, kept attempting the same one-arm clinch over and over again, and the uppercuts with the right arm. Dern allowed herself to get clinched by Cifers, then used all the aggro, all the pressure, all the momentum that Cifers had, because Cifers was going all aggro and aggressive onto Mackenzie Dern here. She used it against her, flipped her over for a slam, and won the fight from there. And that's how Mackenzie Dern, once again, I'm always happy for Mackenzie Dern here, being the first and only woman ever to win with a single leg key lock. That also sucked for Hannah Cifers' career, where she'll be known as the first and only ever woman to tap out to a single leg key lock. That must be bad for Hannah Cifers here. But Hannah Cifers and Mackenzie Dern, they're one of the lucky ones. Even though Cifers lost her fight, she's kind of lucky here because in the UFC event that had Gilbert Burns versus Tyron Woodley, in that event, also had like Spark Carlisle and Quarantillo in it. The Nevada State Athletic Commission, being who they are, came in and was like, alright, the fighters here who sustained significant amount of damage, you are all suspended. I think there were only 3 fighters. There were about 3-4 fighters in that entire card that didn't get suspended from their showing, and Hannah Cifers and Mackenzie Dern were 2 fighters. So I'm really happy for both fighters, and I'm really especially happy for Hannah Cifers here, because for her not being able to be suspended, because she would not have accepted the fight this Saturday if she was suspended, but because she wasn't suspended, she gets to go fight. Not only she gets to go fight, she gets to go make more money. Congratulations for her. She gets to fight against Agapova, and she gets hopefully she's gonna get a big bounce back return here. Now, after facing the first pro loss of her career to Tracy Cortez in the Contender Series in 2019, Agapova scored back-to-back wins in Invicta. So right now, all the momentum right now is going towards Maria Agapova. It makes sense to put your money on Agapova, but Hannah Cifers has a lot to prove in this fight here. Also, Hannah Cifers, she just accepted the fight. She just accepted the fight 2 days ago. She just accepted the fight, and this fight's coming up on Saturday. At the time of recording, it's right now Wednesday. So she has about 3 days of prep time. She's had 5 days of prep time. She had less than a week to prep up against this fighter here with a whole lot of momentum coming over here. So I can respect Hannah Cyphers for doing so. I'm really happy for her. Hopefully she does win. I'm going to be pulling for Hannah Cyphers to win this fight here. Someone threw this out there as a comment here, saying that that's kind of crazy. Cyphers is basically an atomweight fighting at 115. She's on a 2-fight losing streak, and now she's going to fight a 125er. Hopefully, Dana White won't release her. Hopefully, Hannah Cyphers won't release her. I hope Dana White gives, extra bonuses. He should do this. Dana White should give extra bonuses to fighters who are willing to take impromptu fights. Because Cyphers, she's fighting 10 pounds above her weight limit. And I'm happy for Cyphers because now she gets to make a lot more money. That's well deserving because a lot of fighters don't make that much money. And so Hannah Cyphers, she's taking a huge risk here, fighting out against somebody outside of her division. And she's coming off a 2-fight lose streak here. And even then, even though she fought at the women's strawweight division, she looks small. Hannah Cyphers is a small fighter competing in the strawweight division. When you looked at her and Mackenzie Dern looked huge. Mackenzie Dern looked significantly a lot more larger than Hannah Cyphers in their matchup. Angela Hill looked a lot more bigger than Hannah Cyphers in their matchup. So Hannah Cyphers is risking a lot here. Hopefully she gets a pay raise. And I really am pulling for Hannah Cyphers to go win this fight here. She desperately needs this fight more than she needs Agapova. I'm sad that Melissa Gatto doesn't get the chance to go and be able to debut this Saturday. But hopefully she gets her opportunities, maybe in Fight Island. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast. Come back after the short break here.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back. So I'm discussing here Amanda Nunes, Felicia Spencer, what's going on right now in the divisions. We got new fights being set up in the future. We got Hannah Cyphers being called to fight an impromptu fight 5 days in. 5 days before the actual fight happens, coming up this Saturday. And now it is also being reported that we're going to have a Holly Holm versus Irene Aldana headliner in the works for August 1 events. First reported by Brett Okamoto of ESPN, a bantamweight headliner between former champ Holly Holm, who is 13-5, and Mexican prospect Irene Aldana, who is 12-5. Breaking news coming in from Brett Okamoto's Twitter. Holly Holm versus Irene Aldana to headline UFC Fight Night event on August 1 in Las Vegas. Per sources Holm coming off Pennington win in January. Aldana has won 5 of her last 6 fights. The preacher's daughter returned to the win column with a victory over Raquel Pennington in January. Prior to that, she was unsuccessful in a bid to capture the bantamweight title from Amanda Nunes. Aldana currently rides a 2-fight win streak. She last fought in December of UFC 245, scoring the biggest win of her career with a first-round KO against Caitlin Vieira. So this could be a really fun one here. This could go either way. It really can. I don't know who would have put my money in this one, actually. They're both incredibly good fighters and strong strikers here. So, the fight fan in me says Holly Holm, but the logical side in me kind of says Irene Aldana right now. It can go either way. I don't know who's going to win that one. I don't. But we got another announcement here coming up. And it's going to be Juliana Lima versus Emilia Ducote to headline Invicta FC 40 in July. Invicta is returning. Their promotion announced its return in a press release on Tuesday. Invicta's first event since the COVID-19 pandemic will take place on July 2nd in Kansas City, Kansas, at the to be announced venue. Not sure where that venue is going to be exactly at, but it's going to be Kansas City. The card will be headlined by former UFC strawweight Juliana Lima, who is 10-6, and former Bellator flyweight Emily Ducote, who was 8-6. Lima last fought in May 2019 at the Phoenix Series at the Phoenix Series 1 strawweight tournament, losing by decision in the semifinals to eventual tournament winner Brianna Van Buren. Ducote, a former Bellator title challenger, made a successful Invicta debut in August. In November, she challenged for the vacant strawweight title, but lost a split decision to current champion Kanako Murata. The current Invicta 40 card has here Emily Ducote versus Juliana Lima as the main event, Alicia Zaputella versus Lindsay Van Zandt, Deanna Bennett versus Victoria Leonardo, Liv Parker versus Chelsea Chandler, Laura Anderson versus Claire Guthrie, and finally, Genia Gooden versus Shelby Karen. We got Invicta FC returning. I am happy about that, finally, because as a MMA reporter here, it gets kind of tiring constantly talking about the UFC all the time here. Invicta FC is making its big return here. Not sure about Bellator. I don't know when they're gonna go make a comeback. I'm still waiting for news on that, though. But I find it very interesting right now that we're gonna go get another state be open to having combat sports being legal and having sporting events be legal. Because right now in America, a bunch of states are reopening up right now. New York is at the process of reopening. California is going towards phase 3, because in California, our governor has like this multi-phase plan that no one really is following, as it pertains towards, doing a soft open and reopening up certain buildings and businesses up. This Friday, we are going to have gyms. Gyms have been closed for a while. 24-hour fitness has been locked, and I'm really upset about that. Bars are going to be opening up. And I'm really surprised by this. I really am. I really shouldn't be, because I live in California. Because California is going to be one of the last states that are going to go reopen through this entire situation here. Because at the time of this, I only thought about Texas, Nevada, and Florida being the 3 states that are going to go allow sporting events to be made public. Not really made public, but like, they're going to allow sporting events to continue happening. Now, this Invicta FC event is going to be happening in Kansas. Now by July, everything should be opening up. I read a report somewhere saying that 4th of July, I know, right? 4th of July, what are the chances? But 4th of July is going to be when every state will officially be in the process of soft opening. Now, we don't know when there's going to be an actual audience. The National Basketball Association says there's going to be audience numbers coming up as early as 2021. So for all this year, we can expect the UFC, Bellator, Invicta not to have any audience members. But sporting events are still going to be a thing, which once again is very intriguing to me, which means that we could see the Harlem Globetrotters play an empty arena game. Probably what's going to happen here, we're going to see Lima versus Ducote here in their Invicta FC 40 event happening in July. It's probably going to be like an empty arena, so it'll be, no one in the audience. It'll just be the fighters, ring crew, referee. You got the cameraman there. They're gonna emulate something similar to the UFC. And I know a lot of people are making fun of Dana White for that, but if it weren't for Dana White and the UFC pushing for the UFC events to happen, we wouldn't see Invicta FC 40 happening this July. We wouldn't see the National Basketball Association be in the process of restarting their season, and their season could be restarting late July. So I'm happy. I really am happy that sporting events are making a big comeback, because these fighters, they need to make money. They really do. I've talked extensively about how fighters should be able to make the most they can from mixed martial arts fighters should make the most out of their careers because mixed martial arts fighting or any combat sports, even sports in general, a lot of these fighters, their timeline of when they're meant to retire, or the timeline of when is a downturn for their careers, hit hard. They really do. Ronda Rousey, when did she retire from the world of mixed martial arts? She was still really young. I remember that. So I got the information here. Ronda Rousey was 29 years old when she lost to Amanda Nunes. 29. She peaked at 29. And that shouldn't be happening. You shouldn't be peaking at 29. Like, your career you should be at your peak, and then like you're constantly going up because you're still fairly young here. Like, her career ended at the age of 29. And then when she lost to Holly Holm, she was 28. Insane. Because Ronda Rousey, she should have kept on fighting. Right now, Ronda Rousey is currently 33 years old. She could have still been fighting at any level in mixed martial arts. Now, understand Ronda Rousey, she's currently happy right now in her situation for the WWE. But I think it really is a missed opportunity. I think it's a missed opportunity to have never seen Chris Cyborg versus Ronda Rousey. It's a missed opportunity to go see Ronda Rousey compete at Bellator or at Victa. I would have really loved to see, because for Ronda Rousey, how I think about her, I'm thinking that although her run in the UFC didn't end well for her, she could still continue on being, the baddest woman like on earth. She could still continue with that moniker, and she could really push and help out other female fighters out there in the world. If she were to compete at one championship, that would do wonders. Ronda Rousey is a major big name, and I think it was detrimental for the mixed martial arts world as a whole, for all of women's mixed martial arts, for Ronda Rousey to completely retire. Because I felt like if Ronda Rousey wasn't going to go compete for the UFC anymore, she'd go compete at Invicta. She would go and compete at Bellator, or compete at one championship. Strikeforce isn't around anymore, but I don't. And yes, those organizations are small time compared to the UFC. But that shouldn't hold back Ronda Rousey at all. It really shouldn't, because in the grand scheme of things, mixed martial arts fighters don't make that much money. Ronda Rousey gets paid more money right now as a fake fighter. She makes more money right now as a pro wrestler working for the WWE than she did when she was at her peak popularity competing at the UFC. Now when I say this, I'm saying base salary off the organization you're working with. I'm pretty sure she made a lot more money outside the UFC than actually working for the UFC, but I felt like she could have done a lot more for women's mixed martial arts if she were to leave the UFC and went towards another organization. When will that happen? I don't know. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, coming back after the short break here.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And we are back. So I'm talking about how Ronda Rousey, if she were to stay in the world of mixed martial arts, more specifically the UFC, that she could have really helped out other organizations, or just helped push the next crop or the next generation of women's fighters. Well, that's not really the case anymore. Then Ronda Rousey left for the WWE, so we're stuck with what we have right now, and what we have right now is really great. It's really wonderful. The biggest star, in my opinion, in women's mixed martial arts is not Amanda Nunes, and it's not Valentina Shevchenko. It's Weili Zhang. And the reason I say that right now is because Weili Zhang and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, as of right now, they had the best fight of 2020. Without a doubt. People would say, oh, just engage versus Tony Ferguson. No. Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, easily, without a doubt, is the best fight of 2020 in all of mixed martial arts. It was a war, and I am shocked that both women still want to pursue a career in mixed martial arts after that fight. I got friends who have never even watched mixed martial arts, don't keep up with the UFC, and they're telling me, hey, Arnell, you're the UFC fan, you're the mixed martial arts fan here. Tell me, what's going on? What happened in this fight? It's insane. And they're like going online, looking at video footage of what happened. They're going on Twitter, seeing all the highlights and stuff. It is insane. Weili Zhang has so much star power behind her, so much star power that it's kind of scary it really is scary, and that we can't really predict on what to expect on Weili Zhang's career, but we know it's going to be really great. Dana White has talked extensively about this, on how he really believes that Weili Zhang truly is the future of the UFC. Which is strange, because Amanda Nunes right now, she holds 2 belts. But it is being reported in by BloodyElbow.com that Weili Zhang wants 2nd UFC title, targets super fight with Valentina Shevchenko. After a successful defense of her strawweight title, Weili Zhang is now challenging women's flyweight champion Valentina Shevchenko. Saying Weili Zhang was successful in defending her strawweight title at UFC 248 would be an understatement. Magnum decisively defeated former title holder Joanna Jędrzejczyk in a 5-round barn burner that is easily Fight of the Year candidates. After that performance, Weili Zhang is enjoying more fame more now than ever, so much that she is recognized by fans in her home country, even with full protective gear on. When I came back to China last month, I was recognized by fans in the airports, which was amazing because I was wrapped in protective suits, she said in a recent conference call via the Straits Times. Now, even when I go running outside, I am recognized as well. I feel very good about this, and I am glad to see more and more people get to know me and the sport of mixed martial arts. With her continued success in the UFC, the 30-year-old fighter is also looking for bigger challenges ahead, one of them being a flyweight title fight against Valentina Shevchenko, and possibly holding 2 UFC titles simultaneously. If possible, I also want to challenge in the next weight division up and fight with that champion, flyweight title holder Valentina Shevchenko, Weili Zhang said herself. Since dropping down to flyweight in 2018, Valentina Shevchenko has been on a 5-0 run. She has so far defended the 125-pound title 3 times, most recently against Katlyn Chookagian at UFC 247 in February. She won by 3rd round TKO. Currently, right now, it is being pushed that we're going to see Valentina Shevchenko versus Joanne Calderwood. When is that matchup going to happen? Unsure. It is expected that that fight might happen in Fight Island if Valentina Shevchenko is fine and healthy. There's been reports going on that Valentina has been undergoing through an injury, so she has to take some time off before the Joanne Calderwood fight. But that is the next matchup there. I don't expect these two fighters competing each other anytime soon. I just really don't. And I said this before earlier in the podcast, in that the strawweight division is super stacked. Weili Zhang can continue fighting for years in the strawweight division and constantly find new talent and new challengers that are very credible. When you look at the strawweight division, like, it's not like the featherweight division or even kind of like the flyweight division, where I think I found a recent ranking here, in that the strawweight division has the most representation in the best pound-for-pound rankings. Best fighter pound-for-pound rankings. And fighters like Holly Holm, Jermaine Randomay, Valentina Shevchenko, Amanda Nunes, those fighters are being represented, are representing the other divisions, but for the most part, the strawweight division is unanimously the best division in all of UFC, in all the UFC women's divisions here. And so Weili Zhang versus Valentina Shevchenko, that would be a real possibility. I can imagine it in my head right now. Because the only thing, the issue with why Valentina Shevchenko just can't be matched up with Amanda Nunes, even though a lot of people would like to see that, is just because those two have fought each other already, and Nunes decisively defeated Valentina. And I don't think Dana White buys Valentina being able to defeat Nunes. So, what does Dana White want? He wants somebody fresh. He wants somebody new to compete against Amanda Nunes, and that person could be Weili Zhang. What I imagine is that Weili Zhang is going to go through her title defenses, Valentina will go through her title defenses, and then in a major event, like a UFC in New York event, we might see Weili Zhang versus Valentina Shevchenko for the women's flyweight title. And whoever wins that fight, probably Weili Zhang, since that's like the best scenario. Weili Zhang, If Weili Zhang were to defeat Valentina Shevchenko and have a second belt, then at this point we would have two women's fighters with two championship belts. We would have Weili Zhang holding the strawweight belt and the flyweight belt. And then you would have Nunes holding the featherweight and the bantamweight title. And now we're looking at Weili Zhang versus Nunes, and you would say, other than Nunes, Weili Zhang has to be the second best women's fighter out there in the world. Weili Zhang, being the big star that she is right now after her Joanna Jędrzejczyk win, there are a lot of scenarios that can be pushed for Weili Zhang. There are multiple scenarios. Not only that, she's competing against the likes of Jessica Andrade, Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who could be making a return. People seem to forget about this. And Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she statistically fought better than Weili Zhang in their fights. If you were to look just by the numbers, and not the eye test, if you were to look just by the numbers, Joanna Jędrzejczyk fought better than Weili Zhang. I argued that Joanna Jędrzejczyk should have defeated Weili Zhang. But the reason why Joanna Jędrzejczyk lost that fight was because, to the eyes of the judges, to the eyes, not the numbers, to the eyes, based on the eye test, Weili Zhang was messing up Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Based on the eye test. And the judge's eyes is the most important to look over. Now, in terms of the numbers, Joanna Jędrzejczyk did better than Weili Zhang, but when you look at the punches that Joanna Jędrzejczyk and what Weili Zhang were doing to each other, so when Weili Zhang were to punch Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Joanna's face snaps. Like, it just like, there's a, like, the head movement, just like her neck just crocks back after getting hit by Weili Zhang. Joanna Jędrzejczyk might hit like a 3-punch combo on Weili, but Weili would just eat it and just pressure forward and just hit like one hard punch. What matters more? 3 good-looking punches or 1 really hard-looking punch? You be the judge of that. You be that. And so, Valentina Shevchenko versus Weili Zhang, who would win in that fight? Weili Zhang wants a second. And this is a weird thing. Weili Zhang also said recently that she wants to go fight against Rose Namajunas. That she's that's the next fighter that Weili Zhang wants to face. But before we see Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas, we got to see Rose Namajunas fight against Jessica Andrade, and the winner of that fight is then going to go fight Weili Zhang. Personally, what I like to see Rose Namajunas fight against Weili Zhang, because I believe if Jessica Andrade and Weili Zhang were to fight each other again, my money is on Weili, because just Weili Zhang can do everything that Jessica Andrade can do, but better. Then again, the same thing was said about Jessica Andrade versus Rose Namajunas, but unlike that matchup, we've seen it. We've seen Weili Zhang outdo Jessica Andrade in every facet of the fight game there. So it'd be a lot more interesting for me as a fight fan to go see Rose Namajunas fight against Weili Zhang, because nobody knows who's going to win the fight. Bring in peak Rose Namajunas, champion Rose Namajunas, fight against Weili Zhang. I'm just gonna put this out right now. That could be a fight of the year candidate. No, that would be a fight of the year candidate. I'd love to see Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang, because I think they can replicate the fireworks that happened in the Weili Zhang versus Joanna fight. I really do. You're listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, coming back after the short break here. See you soon.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we are back. So, I'm discussing here Weili Zhang and her career trajectory right now. Weili Zhang has the potential to become the second best women's fighter in all of UFC, in all the UFC women's divisions. She really can. She might be the most popular fighter, second, or the most popular fighter right now in all women's mixed martial arts. She really could be. But now let's go towards the GOATs of all of the UFC women's divisions right now, and that is Amanda Nunes. This is coming in from TheBloodyElbow.com. Following a big win over Felicia Spencer, UFC 250's Amanda Nunes wants to take a break for the rest of 2020. A quote is coming here in the subheading saying, "I really need to take a break right now. I think maybe off the rest of the year for sure." Amanda Nunes feels she's long overdue a holiday after becoming the first fighter in UFC history to defend 2 titles in 2 separate weight classes. Nunes will be taking a much-needed break for the rest of this year. Or at least, that's what the Lioness has planned following her 5-round thrashing victory on Felicia Spencer at UFC 250 this past Saturday. Speaking to reporters at the UFC 255 press conference, the soon-to-be mother of one revealed her plans to take an extended hiatus for the rest of 2020. She goes on to say, "A break for sure," she said. "I have to see what's going on with my legs. I always get hurt with this leg. I don't know what's going on." By the way, to add some context, Felicia Spencer was throwing a lot of leg kicks onto Nunes, so that's probably what she's talking about here. "And my baby's coming in 3 months. She's going to be here. I have to organize a lot of things, her room, and I really need a break right now. I think maybe off for the rest of the year, I'm sure." Amanda Nunes defended her featherweight title against Felicia Spencer in the UFC 250 main event, picking her opponent apart with surgical precision en route to a dominant unanimous decision victory. Nunes is ecstatic with the win and feels she put on the perfect performance against one of the toughest women in the sport. Yeah, I would say I'd agree with Amanda Nunes there. She had a perfect MMA fight, and Felicia Spencer, the fact that she went on 5 rounds when a lot of people were the betting odds favorite here. I look at the betting odds again. The general consensus was that Amanda Nunes was going to knock out Felicia Spencer in the first round. Major disrespect there on Spencer. Major disrespect. She got to say, "Nobody ever did that before," she said. "I have to watch the fight again and just enjoy because I knew someday in my life something big was going to happen, and I'm surprised it was more big than I thought, but I was ready." Nunes is the current UFC Women's Bantamweight and Featherweight Champion and is widely considered the greatest female fighter of all time. I am happy for Amanda Nunes. I really am. She's going to be a mom. Now, me being happy for that moment, I'm also unhappy for the fact that I've talked about this before. Her being a double belt champion is just not good. It's not healthy at all. It really isn't. The reason why Daniel Cormier and Henry Cejudo and Conor McGregor, the reason why they lost their second belt was because there's no way any fighter could defend both belts simultaneously. It just couldn't happen in a year. Because once you become champion, you only compete once a year. Now, you may compete twice a year, but it's so risky, and there's a lot of money to be lost if you were to go lose the belt. So the safe idea is, okay, keep the belt as long as possible. So a lot of these champions fight once a year. And for Amanda Nunes, being both the bantamweight and the featherweight champion, well, she's only fighting once a year, sometimes twice a year, and sometimes she might fight twice a year for under one division. It's happened before. The reason why she can get away with defending the featherweight belt or continue holding the featherweight strap is because the featherweight division is a really weak division. It needs time to develop champions. It needs time to develop contenders for Nunes. So right now, Matt Nunes is a champion of this division that lacks a lot of depth. And beyond Spencer and Megan Anderson, there's nothing really else going on there. So Nunes can go and hold on to this belt until the featherweight division develops. But here's the problem. The featherweight division would accelerate much more faster in its development if another person were to hold a belt. That's the honest truth. If Megan Anderson or Spencer were to hold a women's featherweight belt, then the division would be a lot more healthier. There would be a lot more balance. Because when you look at Nunes, she's such in a complete different level compared to the rest of the fighters in the featherweight division that kind of is unfair. There's an upset in the power balance here, and really, her retirement, I'm happy for Amanda Nunes retiring because being a parent, really hard work. I can't even explain it to you. But if the champion is on hold, then the divisions are on hold. Once again, it is understandable why Nunes is doing this. But look at the grand scheme of things here. There is no men's bantamweight champion. The women's bantamweight champion is inactive. The women's featherweight champion is inactive. The men's flyweight division is inactive. What's going on here? We got 4 divisions that are kind of in limbo. Yes, the UFC is trying to fix this right now with having, Jose Aldo versus Peter Yan for the vacant title here. But it's so strange to me that a lot of these divisions are in these weird spots right now where the champions don't know who they're supposed to face, even though there's a ranking system. You got divisions here with no champions. You got champions who want to compete at other divisions without defending their belt. Just what's going on here? Can I please have some stability happening in the divisions? It would be really nice for once we see some stability and we know what to expect for future fights coming up in these divisions. Now, luckily, I know some of these fights. I know what some matchups to expect. Coming up in the flyweight women's division here, we have Jessica Ai matching up against Cynthia Calvillo coming up in 2 days, this Saturday. It's going to be a really fun fight here between Calvillo versus Jessica Ai. We got Viviane Araujo versus against Jennifer Maia coming up in 2 weeks' time on June 27th. And then on June 20, we got Roxanne Modafferi versus Lauren Murphy. That fight, I really want Roxanne Modafferi to win because, kind of like me, she's kind of a geeky nerd. And she's one of the only fighters out there who's not talking trash or trying to upsell themselves in a really cringy way. For the UFC Women's Bantamweight Division, we have Aspen Ladd versus Sarah McCann. Ooh, who's going to win that fight? That's going to be a really tough one here. I got to put my money down on Aspen Ladd. Her grappling ability is just on a whole nother level compared to most of the women in the top 10 of the Women's Bantamweight Division here. So Aspen Ladd versus Sarah McCann is happening on June 27th, coming up in just 2 weeks' time. We have Raquel Pennington trying to bounce back from her loss against Holly Holm against Marion Reneau. That's going to be happening on June 20, next week. And then, we also have another one here. We have Julia Villa versus Kaylin Rosa coming up June 13, 2 days from now. That's definitely going to be a real fun one. We can expect more cards being lined up in the next couple of weeks here, with Fight Island coming right around the corner here, with 4 fight cards coming up in the month of July. A lot of things can change. The cards can shift, and really, I really don't know what to expect. I don't know. Although we got a plethora of fights coming up, still, we don't know, we really are unsure of what to expect from these divisions right now. The Women's Strawweight division, I'm right now looking at their potential matchups here and potential rankings here. So we got here Alexa Grasso against Yi Jeon Kim coming up on June 27th. Jessica Ai versus Cynthia Calvillo. We got Paige Van Zandt against Amanda Ribas. Brianna Van Buren versus Tia Satoris coming up June 20. A lot of interesting matchups here. Oh, also, Paige Van Zandt versus Amanda Ribas. This could potentially be Paige Van Zandt's last fight in the UFC because this is her last contract fight coming up. And hopefully, it's going to be coming up on July 11th at Fight Island. So that's one good way for Paige Van Zandt to end her career. So once again, this could be her last fight in the UFC. It could not. After this fight, she's going to start renegotiating. But I'm putting my money down on Amanda Ribas because Amanda Ribas, she's undefeated right now, and she's trying to work her way up the division, while Paige Van Zandt is more focused on renegotiating her contract. And well, that does it for today's podcast, and all I gotta say is thank you. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Women's MMA Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask you, please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps up. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Women's Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.